Hey folks, Emily here. Today we are going to learn how to use the FM evaluation library in SageMaker Pipeline. So let's get started. All right, so we understand that LLM evaluation helps us make the right choice across our large language model development and deployment lifecycle, all the way from selecting the right model to finding the right prompts, building and enhancing our retrieval stacks, deriving model fine-tuning, reducing costs, migrations, RLHF, and then governance and MLOps. In this video, we are going to double click on governance and MLOps. Let's get rolling. So let's take a quick look at the MLOps lifecycle. Remember, machine learning operations is a technique that we can use to enhance our building across teams. So to make our team development faster, make deployments more streamlined, and enhance and improve, generally speaking, the way we work. And so let's take a look at this. So classic MLOps it really centers on sort of three accounts. Sort of you have this 3-account structure where you'll start with a dev account or a dev environment. And this is where the majority of the model building happens, where we're doing pre-processing, training, evaluation, and then model registration. SageMaker provides a model registry that you can use to establish when a model is shipped, when it's built, and when it's ready and approved from the data science perspective to be onboarded for application development. And so once a model is in the model registry, you can then use MLOps tooling to promote that model to a higher environment. So you might promote it to pre-prod or to test, where you'll create the endpoint and then test the endpoint, ensure it's operational, and then ultimately deploy that environment into a production environment, presumably where your customers and the rest of your application are actually going to be interacting with it. And so classic MLOps helps us build tooling and technology to help make all of this streamlined, fast, and sing with the needs of your business. So what we're going to evaluate today is using LLM evaluation and then MLOps to make the right choices at scale, really. So we learned about the, again, FM eval library and how we can use that to evaluate a single model. Now we're going to use that to learn how to evaluate many models at the same time, actually, by running different jobs and different processes. This is going to enable us to promote those models and the customized models to production environments faster, because we can build one pipeline to then promote models as they meet that criteria. This then enables monitoring on those models. It enables better and more robust retrieval stacks, fine-tuning stacks, and then, of course, testing for new models. We know we live in a world where new foundation models pop up like daisies. They're very common. And so this way, we can enable fast and rapid testing for new models. And so, again, we don't need to spend our time spinning wheels figuring out if we should evaluate a new model or not. Just throw it into the pipeline and see if it sticks. And if it's good, use it. If not, move on to the next one. And so let's see how we're going to do this. So some coworkers of mine built a really awesome project that enables you to run the FM eval library inside of SageMaker pipelines. And so we're going to take a look at this open source sample, and then I'll show you how to set it up, and we'll walk through a couple examples together. So let's say I'm a data scientist. As a data scientist, I primarily interact with my notebook. For example, I'm going to be in Jupyter Notebook running a couple tests. My ML engineer is going to take the notebook that I write and then actually format that into a more robust repository, which can enable all of this, this evaluation using pipelines. So this can run a pre-processing step to, of course, transform the data ahead of time, deploy a variety of models onto endpoints, evaluate both of those models, and then compare those models based on cost, latency, quality, toxicity, and so on and so forth. And so here's a view of two pipelines we're going to look at today. One is a very simple single model pipeline where we'll do some pre-processing and a deploy step, both at the same time, and then those come together and we evaluate the model that has been deployed. After that, we'll take a look at a multi-model evaluation pipeline where we pre-process our data, deploy a model, deploy a second model, evaluate this, and then ultimately make a choice about which foundation model to use based on the evaluation results. And actually, the second pipeline will also include fine-tuning. So you can compare Falcon 7B, Llama 7B, and then a fine-tuned Llama 7B to see which one is the best for your use case. So before we get into the demo, quick shout out to the team who built this. Thank you so much, Socrates, Kartikas, Jagdeep Singh Soni, and then Ricardo Gatti. Really appreciate your cycles in putting this together and then helping me get this online. It's awesome to see this come together. So let's get going. All right, so as promised, robust and operational pipeline, but let's figure out where this came from. So again, there's an open source example you can use, FM Evaluation at Scale, which takes the FM Eval library and helps you operationalize it with SageMaker pipelines. So you can use SageMaker pipelines, which has a pipeline.py file along with the YAML file. So you can modify the YAML file with the name of the model you want to evaluate, the type of evaluation you would like to do. You can point to a data set you would like to fine-tune in S3, for example, and a few different modes, and then just run the script. And then it triggers all of the pipelines to actually execute and then give you the evaluation results. We can also, of course, configure this using new models as we like. So let's jump in. All right. So first, we'll just look at the repository. So once you download this, of course, you'll open this up. And then I'm in the source directory, and in particular, SM Pipelines. And this is the primary folder I've been doing most of my work in, this SM Pipelines library. And then you'll see this handy RunMe library, or notebook rather, Python notebook. And so this has two requirements actually. So there's a local requirements to run the Python packages in this notebook. There is a second requirements.txt. Actually, let me zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. There is a second requirements.txt, which is what the processing job will need to execute all of the rest of the steps. So local requirements for your notebook, and then sort of larger requirements for what's actually going to run in the pipeline. So that's this. Again, make sure you're using the latest version of the SageMaker Python SDK in addition to Boto 3, as this will enable you to use both SageMaker Clarify Foundation Model Evaluation and the updates to SageMaker Pipelines. SageMaker Pipelines had an update and is now much easier to create a step. You can create a step really in a single line of Python code, and so that's what we use in addition to FM Eval. And then the notebook here is really just uploading all of the data sets to the right S3 location. So you can set your output bucket here. I'm just using my default bucket. And then it's loading the local files. So in this local datasets folder, which ships with this repository. So the local datasets, and then we're gonna upload those to our S3 bucket and they become available. This is also the same S3 bucket where the output of the evaluation jobs will go. So unlike the SageMaker UI, which gives you this very lengthy and detailed report that explain the metrics and that goes into detail and gives you these nice graphs, the library is not going to do that. The library is much more terse and it just gives us the evaluation results. So we'll be able to download those from our S3 bucket as this job completes. And then we just run pipeline.py. Nice and easy. So let's take a look at this pipeline.py business and see if we can figure out what's going on. So pipeline.py right here. So it's using the SageMaker.workflow, again, the SageMaker pipelines core process. And then we're importing these steps, actually. We have them defined in this repository here. And then we're just establishing our SageMaker session, pointing to our default bucket, adding the input and output data arguments, and then parsing this YAML file. So this YAML is how you can modify what's in this pipeline. So it's pipeline.yaml, which is right here. And so this takes the name of your pipeline, the dataset names, the types, the input and the output keys, and then your model name. So right here. And then the algorithms as well. So this is where you can modify all of those things when you're running this pipeline. All right, so that's your config. And then we'll just set up an execution ID, pipeline name, set point to the algorithm that we uploaded from that pipeline.yaml file. Set this, and then we create our step. So our step has this pre-process, it has an endpoint name, and then these evaluation results, and then a cleanup step as well to delete the resources. And then we create the pipeline. So this is your pipeline. And then we add the execution rule. So let's check this out. So you'll notice I'm in SageMaker Studio Classic, actually, but let's inspect this. And so again, we have two pipelines we're going to look at. One is the single model that evaluates one model, of course, and then the second one evaluates multiple models. So let's open this. So here we go. We have a successful run. I'm going to right click on this, open execution details, and here we go. So this is my pipeline. Again, that's evaluating one model. This is evaluating the text generation Llama 2 7 billion. So first it deploys the model, then runs that pre-processing step, evaluates the model, and then ultimately cleans up the resources. And then for each of these, we can drill into some of the details, looking at the files, the source files, the logs, and then the relevant information. And then this, the evaluation result is actually sitting in my S3 bucket. So my S3 bucket is over here. So in my session buckets, LLM eval at scale example, and then this is the output for one of my jobs. Actually, let me show you the output for this job. Yeah, so this is the output for the single model, which is a factual knowledge score of 0.59. So we get this evaluation response for this single model. Let's see if we can heat this up a little bit. So now I'm going to close this out, and we're going to go back to pipelines, and now let's look at how we can evaluate multiple models. Again, successful run. We're going to open the execution details, and here we go. So let's unpack this. So there are 3 evaluation processes happening. And you know what? Let me dive in even further because this is probably a little bit tough to see. So first, we're deploying a Llama 7B, drop an evaluation on that. Next, we're deploying a Falcon 7B, also deploying this. And then we have this third stream over here that's fine-tuning Llama 2, deploying this, and then evaluating it. And so all 3 of those different models feed into this single step, which is selecting the model. And then this model selection creates that same HTML file I showed you, where we see the result of this model in factual knowledge Q&A, and then we clean up each of these resources. And so let's open this in more detail. So we have the logs for the model selection, which is quite nice. We can see actually for each model, the endpoint name, model version, evaluation config, factual knowledge, eval score value right here. So here the logs are actually showing the output of the evaluation, which is quite nice. All right. And then we can drill into the S3 path, which again is in this S3 bucket that I provided, and then output the name of the job, multi-models. Let's look at this one. And then again, we have 3 HTML files for each of the models that we deployed. And then here we go, factual knowledge score much higher, so 0.59. Great. All right, and then remember the repository has ways for you to modify this to add even more models and to do even more modifications. So if you'd like to evaluate 50 models or run, tens of fine-tuning jobs and then evaluate all of those, you can modify this to be able to run those massive evaluations at scale. So with that, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. In this YouTube video, we looked at setting up foundation model evaluation in SageMaker pipelines to help us operationalize and scale our large language model evaluation to meet the needs of our customers. This includes evaluation for models hosted in SageMaker, of course, with SageMaker Jumpstart, in addition to custom models and runners that we build and establish. And then we're running pipelines to enable us to evaluate, again, single models and then multiple models, including models that have been fine-tuned. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this. And then in the next video, we're going to take a look at how to bring our own data sets, models, and evaluation metrics for FM eval. So thanks.